I'm doing the match reaction in a slightly different fashion tonight, in a different way. Usually I'd come on at full time, I'd give you the full hullabaloo, the rundown, go through the first half, second half, etc, etc. I'm not quite sure that I'll make it to full time today, so it's half time. It's half time as we currently speak at this point in time in the video. Don't worry, I'll maybe check back in, depends. If it gets to 10, then there might not be a reaction or a giver, there might be nobody here to upload it, so I'm going to do it in a different way today, because there's just far too much to dissect from that first half. I have the fear that by the time full time rolls round, I'll have forgot everything that I wanted to say about the first half, and then it'll just be a complete and utter waste of time. So yeah, it's half time as we currently speak. We're going to do this a half at a time, and I'm not quite sure I want to, but here we are. It's half time and it's Borussia Dortmund 5, Celtic 1. Feels embarrassing to say it out loud. You know, we've been used to these European scalpings, haven't we? It's been kind of rinse and repeat for years now. You know, Celtic go into Europe, they get a bit too carried away with themselves. The reality check happens. We lose 7-0 to Barcelona, we lose 7-1 to PSG, we lose 6-0 to Atletico Madrid. Usually by half time, you know, things are still bubbling away. Right now, we're on track for it being a record. You know, Dortmund only need to get a couple more in this second half, and it could be a record. It could be a record embarrassment for Celtic and Brendan Rodgers. It could be a record embarrassment for us as supporters, especially with the attitude that we all went into with this game. And listen, I'm not going to fault the optimism or the ambition of Celtic supporters going into this game. I, for one, was also ambitious and optimistic going into this game. I thought that Celtic could go to Dortmund with the way that they've been playing and maybe, just maybe, get something. They've got us dreaming with the way we've been playing football, but once again in Europe we've had our pants pulled down. Are we victims to a wounded animal? Are we victims to a team who've started their season that poorly that they're out for some blood, they're out for revenge? Maybe we are victims of that, but it still doesn't excuse the pathetic performance that we have seen in the first half of football in Germany this evening. I have no idea how the second half is going to go from where I record this video right now. And to be honest, I don't even want to picture it. I don't want to imagine it. But we need to sort it out, and we need to sort it out fast. Listen, at this point, I'll walk away with a 5-1 defeat going, I'm happy with that. You know, that is how bad it's been in the first half. I'm actually at the point where I'm thinking 5-1 would be a good result to walk away with. But the fear is that this second half could get worse, and far worse, to the point where we're talking 8, 9, maybe 10, because that's how bad Celtic are playing. There's so many problems to talk about in the first half, so many, and I don't even know if I'll get through all of them before the second half kicks off. But, you know, the worst thing is, of course, number one, all the goals are avoidable. Every single one of them. 2 of them are penalties. The other 3, I'm thinking, how has this ended up happening? There is a different problem for each of the goals, which you solve that problem, the goals don't happen. But there's no point in thinking of it like that. I've seen so many tweets saying these goals are avoidable. Of course they are, but it's Celtic in Europe, and every goal you concede is avoidable. You know, it's always a mistake that leads to a goal, isn't it? It's not like we've been completely outdone by a team who are playing some beautiful football, but it doesn't excuse anything. You know, we've been just incredibly poor in so many different areas. There is still clearly a number of players at the club who aren't good enough for playing at the top level. There is guys there who, yeah, will pass and get the pass marks for playing Slovan Bratislavas, and I'm sure when we welcome, you know, young boys to Celtic Park, or when we welcome some of the other Bruges to Celtic Park, you know, when these teams come, they might hit the pass marks, but there is evidently players there who aren't good enough for the very top level. And I don't know if Celtic will ever be able to attract players who are going to be very good or good enough for that level, but there's certainly some who are so wide of the mark. I mean, listen, I've made my notes for the first half. Greg Taylor is getting ripped apart on that left-hand side, and I'm not going to turn this video into targeting abuse on one specific player. Every single person, bar maybe Schmeichel, because he's made a couple of saves that saved it from being 7 or 8, has been poor. Maeda was doing well enough for me until the 5th goal. We'll get onto that, but Taylor is getting torn apart on that left-hand side. Karim Adeyemi, I said it in the pre-match live stream, my fear tonight is that Taylor might get taken to the shops and when they return, and that is what's happening. He's having a field day over there, and it's getting concerning. It's, for me, it would behook Greg Taylor at half time. I don't know if that's maybe happening down the stairs as I speak, but he is getting torn apart. The quality is wow, a huge gap. That is one of my notes from the first half. What has been really pissing me off the most is and I don't know if this is a tactical decision from the manager, and I don't know if it's just negligence on the night from the players. I don't know if it's just a lapse of judgment and concentration. The complete and utter negligence, though, of marking their number 10. Whoever it is in the area, whether it's Julian Brandt or whether it's Guirassy dropping deep, why is there just a complete negligence and marking their number 10 and picking them up? We are giving them so much room. There was a point where I believe it was young Gittins who came in from the left-hand side. He cut in and came through the middle, and he was just carrying the ball for 20-25 yards. Between that space between their holding midfielders and their striker, he just carried it, and Celtic just watched as he done it. Julian Brandt, who has been Dortmund's best player for 2 or 3 seasons now, has had multiple scenarios where he's been standing free in space, the ball has been given to him without anyone being near him, and it's caused us problems, or it's led directly to a goal, or and as I said, I picked up Adeyemi, who's came into from the right hand side multiple times. It's almost as if between their holding midfielders and their striker, there's just a complete negligence to marking it, and it's leaving us in no man's land. And I don't know if it's instructions that's coming from the manager. I don't know, once again, as I'm saying, if it's the players on the night who are just shitting themselves, but it has cost us dearly, and I don't know why it's happening. I mean, defensively, we've been all over the place. It's as simple as that. We have been all over the place defensively. We are missing Cameron Carter-Vickers massively, but I don't think that his, if he was there tonight, I don't think he solves the problems. It's that bad tonight that even if he is there, we still probably concede 5 goals. We've been that bad. For the first goal, Johnston and Trusty, McGregor does well enough to come in, tap the ball away from Adeyemi, who it is at the time. But Johnson and Trusty just stare at the ball, and it lets Adeyemi recover from the mistake, recover from McGregor's defensive action, and they get a penalty from it because Schmeichel has no other option but to bring him down. Defensively we seem so bad. I think that for the second goal, Scales is too busy watching the ball fall from the sky, and he's just letting his player get the best of him physically. We then don't pick up on it when the ball's beyond Scales. We give away another stupid penalty. The other goals are the one that Adeyemi fires into the top corner is probably more Schmeichel's fault. His positioning should be better. He should be doing better from that, but it's a fantastic finish. He busts the net and there's not much you can do about it. Maida is then at fault for the 5th goal when he just rolls it straight to Adeyemi. He's having a field day, Adeyemi, isn't he? But defensively, we have been so poor, but we've had nothing to answer from an attacking point of view, and this is where it probably gets even more frustrating because we've just been so slow. We've been so idle when trying to get the ball up the park, and you'd think that we'd learn our lesson from the goal we actually did score. We do so well to answer back so quickly, and then we just let them back into the game and back into the lead like that. Seconds later, we're not even level pegging for more than I think 1 minute before they're back in the game. But the way that we scored that goal was from getting up the park quickly, and every time we've tried to go forward since, holy Christ, it's been so slow and passive. It's allowing Dortmund too much time just to pick up what we're trying to do, and we're making mistakes. They're forcing us into mistakes. As I said in my notes, you've got to learn when that's not working. You've got to adapt, and it's a sad fucking day when Neil Lennon's sitting on commentary, right? Neil Lennon said, sometimes you've got to go long, sometimes you've got to try something else. And I love Brendan, and I love him to bits, but sometimes you do need to change it. Sometimes the instruction shouldn't be to try and pass out from the back and try and go slowly, because Dortmund are just all over us, like a Doug Ayres fucking beetroot. They're all over us. And maybe we just need to get it up the park and play quicker, because it's too slow, it's too idle, it's just achieving nothing. And I think a big part of that problem is, and I'm going to stand by this, and once again, I don't want to target people in this match reaction. Paulo Bernardo was not the right choice to start the game tonight, and I don't care how many people tried to convince me in my comment section that he was the right choice to play tonight. He was not, because Rio Hatate And once again, probably still would be 5-1 down if he's on the park tonight. Doesn't make too much of a difference, I think. But he's got that in him to take a risk, to do something that maybe does send a ball long. I don't think Paulo Bernardo has that same quality to pull it off. Bernardo likes to carry it, but people were talking about, well, Bernardo's better at keeping the ball. In a game like this tonight, you know, it's not about trying to keep the ball in the middle of the park. You can't outclass Julian Brandt, Emre Can and Pascal Gross. You know, it's about moments of magic. It's about maybe taking a risk and sending the ball long or picking out a pass. And I genuinely think that Rio Hatate is better than that, and that's why he should have started the game tonight. And I'm not targeting Paulo Bernardo, but I think he's been piss poor, just like every player in the park has been. But I think it was the wrong decision to start him on the night. It's just one man's opinion, I suppose. I think the second penalty's harsh. I really do. Not that it matters anyway. I really do think that it was a harsh one to be given away. But we need to sort out. Listen, I'm not going to go into full blown. Well, who knows? We'll see when I come back to my second half reaction. I'm not going to go into full blown meltdown mode quite yet. You know, there's another 6 games to play after this. We're obviously doing very, very well domestically. But it is just such a boot in the stones when you know, you have been so optimistic and you have been so ambitious. But listen, we've just been absolutely outclassed. And anyway, half time. Let's see what I say about the second half. I didn't imagine that this would turn into an 11-minute first half reaction. I told you, if I waited till half time, I wouldn't get it all done. Let's see what there is to say about the second then. Nice to see you. At least the second half was only, 2-0? 2-0 it finished in the second half. Full time. Listen, everything that I said about the first half basically applies itself again here to the second half. It was bad. It wasn't as bad, but it was bad. Listen, tonight is a humiliation for Celtic. It's as simple as that. And obviously at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to the golfing class, but it can't always be used as an excuse. Celtic need to understand how to adapt in these games, in these situations. Celtic need to understand how to change what they're doing in these games. Ultimately, what we done tonight wasn't going to work, and we didn't change. And you know, part of you wants to sit down and say, well, I admire Brendan Rodgers and the Celtic side for sticking by their kind of standards and the way that they want to play football. But at the end of the day, look, listen, it got to the 60th minute and Celtic just started lumping the ball up the park. And I know that sounds so defeatist, almost. I know it sounds just so bloody typical. It's very Sam Allardyce of me. But, you know, you've got to just get men behind the ball, and you've got to adapt to the situation that's unfurling in front of you. And Celtic didn't do that. Surprise, surprise, we actually looked better once Rio Hatate was on the park. It's almost as if I said that would be the case. I thought he was the only kind of positive in that second half. The fact that he brought a kind of a better, I don't know, he basically came on the park and we could have scored straight away with that ball that he sent through to Nicholas Kuhn. It was a terrible finish. We had a couple of big chances. Ida was unlucky with one that somehow didn't go in. But, you know, at the end of the day, we got absolutely battered, and the only sort of positive that I can genuinely take away from the game is the fact that we didn't lose 8-1. We haven't, you know, beat our own record and made it worse. You know, at least it's tied with PSG. At least we've only conceded 7 like we did in Barcelona. You know, it's a sad day when that's the positives that you're taking away from the game this evening. But it's sickening. It kind of gives you just a sort of empty feeling. You know, especially when... And I think, look, the biggest part of the problem tonight is the fact that we went in so high-spirited and so ambitious. Maybe that was wrong of us. Maybe it was arrogant of us to go in and a lot of us... You know, listen, I said in my stream, I don't think Celtic will win tonight. I didn't. But I at least expected us to go and give them a game. I at least expected to go and make it tough and make it as close as we could. Didn't expect us to be 5-1 down at half-time. I was under no illusions that tonight was going to be a game where I'd be coming up this loft to do my match reaction, talking about how Celtic have just pulled off the upset of the century or whatnot. But I certainly did not think I was going to be talking about a 7-1 spanking yet again. I thought those days well behind us. I thought those days were long gone, but evidently not. A lot of players have to look themselves in the mirror tonight and do better. You know, so many players off the mark. You know, Taylor rightly hooked at half time after one of the worst 45 minutes I've seen for a Celtic player. Bernardo rightly hooked at half time. Johnson was terrible. Trusty, not great. Scales, not great. McGregor, dreadful. Kuhn didn't have a great game. I feel bad for Kyogo and Ida because they had nothing to do in the game. I can't really say that they had a bad game. They didn't get a touch of the ball. There was nobody on there that's, you know, worth standing up and applauding. You know, it was just a terrible performance from the entire side, and it's one that we'll need to go and do our homework from. Listen, I guess the big takeaway that you can have from this game, and I guess one of the positives that you can walk away with, is the fact that on paper was probably the toughest game. You know, the Champions League finalists at the end of the day, in their ground, in the most, you know, maybe intimidating stadium in the continent. Maybe that was the hardest game on paper. Now it's a case of Celtic going, right, listen, if we can end this group, we are still in a position where Celtic can end this group going, right, apart from that spanking, we done pretty well. You know, we can still win our other 3 games at Celtic Park. We can get enough points to send us through to that playoff round. It's still possible. You might be laughing at that suggestion after that performance tonight and going off those standards. You know, I'm certainly trying my best not to laugh at them, but there's still a very real possibility that Celtic could do that. And then we kind of look back in this Dortmund game and go, right, it was a poor show. We need to learn from it. You know, there's still a potential positive outcome from this entire 8-game group stage. But you need to learn from that. You need to learn how to change the way you're playing. You've got to learn about where we've got to next go with recruitment to improve this team, how to compete with these bigger teams. It's not a good look for Celtic. It's the kind of thing that probably turns players off the move to Celtic as well. So, you know, we need to pick up from that, and we need to answer back in our next European game. And it's not going to be easy. You know, we've got a couple of tough games coming up. You know, Atalanta and Bergamo is going to be... That could be another one if we don't pick up from the mistakes tonight. So, yeah, a lot of hard work has to be done. We go to Dingwall at the weekend. Yeah, I'm kind of done talking about it, to be honest. Just want to get the video up and done it at the way now. Terrible. Anyway, like and subscribe. See you next time.